Thank you. Good morning. I'm really honored to introduce our awardee, Doug Marshall. I've been working with him pretty much my entire tenure at FFRF. He first contacted me in 2009 to alert me to a prayer station that was happening at the Warren City Hall. This was a table that was set up by a church that allowed passersby to pray with them. You could go pay your water bill and then go to the station and pray that the check clears. So we wrote many letters objecting to the station, and then they claimed that it was an open forum, so we sent an open records request. They indicated that the church was given a permit, and they were abiding by certain policies. Doug was not deterred. Under those same policies, he decided to counter the annual nativity display that is put up in the City Hall atrium. The Mayor Fouts of Warren, Michigan, had previously stated that anybody was welcome, all religions, he doesn't discriminate. So Doug decided he wanted to put up a sign next to the nativity and asked to use FFRF's winter solstice sign that was written by Ann Gaylor, saying, "There are no gods." But he was censored. And I wish that I could read all of the correspondence that Mayor Fouts sent to us, because it's always very entertaining and has a unique interpretation of the law, especially the First Amendment. But in his denial, he did say, "Your religion is not a recognized religion. Please don't hide behind the cloak of non-religion as an excuse to abuse other recognized religions. You can't make a negative into a positive. Clearly, your proposed display in effect would create a considerable ill will among people of all recognized faiths." And there was many more things. I think in addition to this award, he should probably get an award for putting up with the most ridiculous mayor. Mayor Fouts has said that he has absolute discretion to determine what religion is and what sort of speech he should allow in the atrium. So with pro bono help from a lawyer in Michigan, we sued in federal court over the nativity display. And unfortunately, we lost that case in 2011. A panel at the Sixth Circuit said that it was permissible government speech, which interestingly enough was not an argument that either party had put before the court. But Doug was not deterred, so we decided to set out and again challenge the ongoing prayer station. So he again applied for a permit to put up a reason station, and he was denied, of course. This time, FFRF teamed up with Americans United and the ACLU of Michigan, which happened to be the first joint lawsuit of its kind between the three large organizations, and we represented him claiming that his right to free speech was violated. This time, Doug won. Doug now directs the Warren Reason Station. He has identified himself as an atheist since the age of 40. He graduated from Tri-State College in Indiana with a business degree in 1967, served in the U.S. Army for 2 years, and retired in 2005 as a marketing analyst in the trucking and logistics industry. It's truly been my pleasure to work with him over the years. He's steadfast and committed to state-church separation, and he truly is someone who is very genuine, kind, and honestly one of the sweetest people that all of the attorneys can attest we've ever met. We're very proud to have him represent free thought in Warren, Michigan, and I'm really honored to bestow FFRF's Freethinker of the Year award, which is reserved for litigants in victorious state church lawsuits. Doug, you can come up and receive your award.
I feel very humbled and somewhat undeserving of this award, because I have never felt threatened, although once I was slandered, and many times I've been told that I am going to hell. But that doesn't worry me very much. Today, as shown in a recent Pew study, America is becoming more diverse in its religious beliefs, and there is an increase in those who do not believe in any deity or religion. This causes many of the religious to insert their beliefs in the public arena. They do this because they see their membership dwindling and feel that they need to make America a theocracy in order to boost their membership and maintain their dominance. Public officials assist this by giving public space to the favored religion to grant the authority of the governmental unit to their religion. Public school teachers add creationism to their science classes, read Bible passages in class, pass out religious literatures, and promote clubs like the Good News Club, and add religious songs to their seasonal presentation. We must be on the watch for violations of the First Amendment and separation of church and state at all times and challenge them whenever they occur. Our country was established not as a Christian nation, but as a secular nation. Many of our founding fathers were revolutionary deists. They saw the problem that official religions bring and wanted to make sure those problems would not be tolerated in this new country. The First Amendment to the Constitution states, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And the 14th Amendment, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States. The First Amendment forbids laws, rules, and privileges respecting religion, and the 14th Amendment conveys that along to the state and local governments. As citizens, it is our responsibility to support our government and its underlying Constitution if we want to live under that document. It has been noted by someone that if we lose our freedoms, it will not be in a big slash of a sword, but in many small cuts that we ignore and refuse to address. The Christians and offending parties will complain that we are nitpicking. If these violations offend us, we should close our eyes, look the other way, and remain quiet. I reply, there are no small violations of the Constitution, and that all must be addressed. I was confronted with a situation in Warren, Michigan, where I live. The city was giving space in the City Hall atrium to a religious group to promote their religion. When I complained about this perceived establishment violation, I was told that the area was a free speech area open to all, and it would be a violation of the church's right to speak to deny them access. At the time, in the spring of 2009, I contacted Freedom from Religion, and Rebecca Market wrote a written complaint to the city and received similar response. This was my initial involvement with Freedom from Religion and caused me to join this group. I then asked about the availability of a similar access. I found that I needed insurance policy in the amount of $1 million, and in addition, $10,000 in medical insurance, which I would have to add the city, the Downtown Development Authority, as additional insureds. As an individual, I have no need for a general liability insurance, so the cost of the insurance would be prohibitive to me. Also, the city had an unreasonable charge for the whole atrium, which they wanted to apply to displays by individual residents, but waived for churches and nonprofits. Confronted with these obstacles, I was unable to challenge the violating parties with my own speech. 2 years ago, at this convention, I met with Patrick Elliott, and I asked if Freedom from Religion, a 501c3 nonprofit, was willing to add me, the city, and the Downtown Development Authority to their insurance policy for a reason station. Once I knew that I had the insurance requirement covered, I was able to make my application for a counter display. From the start, I knew that the city was only using the public space story as justification for allowing a violation of the Establishment Clause, and I suspected that my request would be denied out of hand. Believing that this would be the case, I contacted the local ACLU in advance to determine their response and if I was denied. They stated that they could not say what they could do on something in the future, that they could only make a commitment after it happened. I also contacted a representative, Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, for their assessment, and advised that they too wanted to be notified if my application was denied. Now that I had contacted the three organizations and was sure of my legal standing, I was ready to present my application for the space. Because Patrick Elliott had obtained copies of the church's application for me, I was able to duplicate the application of the prayer station for my Reason station. When the time was appropriate, I set the application in for the Reason station by certified mail. As I had expected, a week later I received a letter from the mayor stating that my application was being denied, but as a bonus, the mayor stated that my application was being denied because I was an atheist and a member of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. The mayor knew this because we had been to court before over the solstice display a year early. This was perfect. The city was denying my right to speech because of my religious views, because of my membership in the Freedom from Religion Foundation. The denial was clearly a violation of my religious rights, my right to speak, and my right of association as stated in the First Amendment. The denial of equal protection on the law as stated in the 14th Amendment. When I received the letter of denial, I was ready, and I emailed all the documents to Freedom from Religion Foundation, Americans United, and the ACLU. I knew that Freedom from Religion was behind me, but they did not have a local attorney at that time to handle the case. Americans United was the first to respond with a letter to the mayor and the city within 4 hours from the receipt of my complaint. About a week later, I received a call from the ACLU to interview me to make sure that I was honorable and that I was involved based on principle as opposed to looking for personal gain. Within about 3 weeks from my email, I had all three organizations offering to represent me. I was able to coordinate the three organizations to work together with an additional local attorney on my case. I signed the agreement for these organizations to represent me. I believe, well, as Rebecca said, that this was the first time that these three organizations had worked together on a single case. One of the things that I had done while working with this situation was always remain polite when dealing with the government officials or anyone involved. I always kept my temper in check, never raised my voice, always said thank you and no thank you in all my dealings. This did not stop the city from claiming in their response to the lawsuit that I was an obnoxious, threatening person and wanted only to create a disturbance. One of the penalties for challenging an Establishment Clause violation is that the religious establishment and the governmental unit will spread all manner of things about me. These unwarranted accusations were later discredited in the deposition portion of the disclosure, leaving only the original reasons as stated by the mayor's letter. The mayor, during interviews with reporters, both immediately after his rejection and also after I filed in federal court, compared Atheist, Freedom from Religion Foundation, and by extension myself, to the Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan. In the last few years, various individuals in this country have made comparisons to Nazis or Hitler. And I believe that they are just publicly stating that they have no knowledge of either, and they have nothing else to justify whatever they are proposing or defending. The comparison did hit the news, and after the initial news reports, the mayor had to backtrack on that comparison. Then when I sent my application, I was sure that the mayor would reject my application. At the time, it was the best thing he could have done for me. I was in no position to buy the necessary items such as easels, tables, chairs, signs, and table displays. And I did not have a group of people organized to staff a reason station at that time. Had the mayor approved my initial request, I would have been unable to buy the necessary equipment, and I did not have the group of volunteers to staff the table. Without this, I would have been hard-pressed to set it up myself, staff it for the long run. The mayor's rejection and the lawsuit gave me the publicity to obtain the volunteers, and the victory gave me the money to buy the equipment. In settlement talks demanded by the court, the city capitulated on all my demands, and the only thing I had to give up was the main sign would only say Reason Station, but there would be no restrictions on what was on the table for display and distribution. Even with the city paying all the legal fees and damages, I was amazed that the mayor was still claiming victory. I first complained about the prayer station in April 2009 and was not able to win victory until this year. The downside of asking for equal access is that once it is won, it must be provided, and I must provide and staff the display. Freedom from Religion has supplied non-tracts, Free Thought Today, and many other materials for the Reason Station. Also, American United has supplied materials, the American Humanists have supplied materials, and the Center for Inquiry has also given me materials to pass out. The U.S. representative and our U.S. senator has supplied copies of the Constitution, and the state representative has supplied copies of the Michigan Constitution. I used some of the damages to provide for the signage, table displays, and other equipment required. Hopefully that if my displays are designed properly, sooner or later, the city will determine that the City Hall atrium is not the appropriate place to discuss whether or not a deity exists. The true meaning of the Reason Station is that it takes away the government endorsement of the prayer station it previously had. It also puts atheists in public view so we can be seen as ordinary people as what we are. And it also lets other atheists who have been in the closet and felt alone to know that they are not alone. After a minor correction in the insurance certificate, the city approved my application for the Reason Station. On the first day, we had 8 visitors to the display, all of which thanked us. On the second day, we had 2 other atheists stop by to specifically thank us for our efforts in getting the Reason Station in City Hall. Some of these people have gone on to become volunteers. Another woman who described herself as a regular Christian who attended weekly church service stopped to thank us for all our efforts in setting up the Reason Station. There is rarely a day in which someone does not stop to thank us for being there. A few weeks after opening, a lady from California in the Detroit area on family business specifically drove to Warren to visit the Reason Station and thank us for being there. So many have stopped, and the response has been so positive that I feel rewarded for all the time and work I put into setting up the Reason Station. The first day of operation was April 28th of this year. And we have operated every day that we have been allowed to from that day. The city had set out new rules on April 28th, and they brought down and handed them to both us and the prayer station. And they were hoping these rules would stifle us from having the display in City Hall. But we have made every day, and the prayer station has missed at least 10 days because they could not meet the new rules established by the city. On the first day, we were using a card table of my mother's, which was over 60 years old. One of my volunteers said, "Doug, this is an antique." There wasn't much room for all the material that we had to display. Later, one of the volunteers set up a staffing format on Volunteer Spot so that all the scheduling is done via the internet. I have created business cards with the staffing website, which gives to give to prospective volunteers. I can also handle the commitment for them, or if they don't have access to the internet. I would eventually buy a 6-foot portable table, new and lighter chairs, a portable 2-wheel dolly to help in moving the item, and plastic pamphletless space to hold the hands out. The settlement stated that the sign would only say Reason Station, but there would be no restriction on what was on the table. When I ordered the easel for the main sign, I also ordered smaller easels to be used as table displays. On the first day of operation, I had a quote by Benjamin Franklin. Starting on National Day of Prayer, we had a table display from Matthew 6.5. And I don't know how many are you familiar with that, but yeah, it's 6.5 starts out, "And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand on street corners and pray so they can be seen by men." With the exception of the staff, few of the religious that stopped by seemed to understand what the sign was saying. I later added a quote by Thomas Jefferson to the table displays, and I started having 2 table displays, with the second one being a quote by Epicurus. In July, I replaced Epicurus with a statement by Marcus Aurelius. Recently, I had added a Susan B. Anthony statement. I'm planning for this next solstice to have a table display for "Let Reason Prevail," the original sign that the city banned in 2011. At no time have I wished to promote my views on the existence or non-existence of a deity. Although I'm not ashamed of my opinion that there are no deities based on a lack of evidence, I do not broadcast my views except when asked or confronted. I have no issue with what anyone wants to believe, or their right to meet in churches or their home to discuss and practice their beliefs. If people want to put up signs in their yard or purchase billboard space to expound their beliefs, it causes me no injury. As Thomas Jefferson said, it does me no injury if my neighbor says there are 20 gods or no gods. It neither picks my pocket or breaks my leg. I do have a problem with people that want to use government facilities to promote their religious beliefs and to add the implication that the government endorses those beliefs and practices. The only reason that I ask for space for a reason station is to take away that governmental endorsement of religion. I need to thank the Freedom from Religion Foundation, Americans United, the ACLU, and all the attorneys for making the Reason Station possible. Most of all, I need to thank the volunteers that staff the Reason Station, two of which are in the audience, I believe. George and Lynn, would you stand up? The volunteers are the Reason Station. I just haul it around. Finally, if we want to live in a country where we have freedom of conscience and the right to express those opinions, we must remain alert to any violation of those rights. We need to be First Amendment warriors, challenging violations of the Bill of Rights whenever they occur. Remember, there are no small violations of the Bill of Rights, and if we want those rights, we cannot close our eyes to those violations. Thank you.